Hey students, welcome to Sunday the 31st. Today is our last day of the Proverbs Project. Thank you so much for joining us across the way. I'm really excited just that we got to go through this together. So if you're sticking around for day 31, the last day, kudos to you. I commend you. Let's hop right into it. Proverbs 31. The sayings of King Lemuel contain this message which his mother taught him. O my son, O son of my womb, O son of my vows, do not waste your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, to guzzle wine. Rulers should not crave alcohol. For if they drink, they may forget the law and not give justice to the oppressed. Alcohol is for the dying, and wine is for those in bitter distress. Let them drink to forget their poverty and remember their troubles no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless, and see that they get justice. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax, and busily spins it. She is like a merchant ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instruction with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. All right, so in verse 2 and 3, the little section there talks about a mother talking to her son and saying, do not waste your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. And what I want to advise you against as students, and I'm sure your parents will probably advise you the same exact thing, but maybe it's helpful to hear it from a different voice, is that wasting your time and your energy, whether that's your time to study or your time to excel at a sport and be passionate about a sport, or time for your job or your ambition, wasting those things over a relationship or an infatuation that's not that important is so unwise, and it's something that none of us should ever do. Going down to verse 6 and 7, it sounds a little bit strange to us nowadays to hear somebody in the Bible recommending alcohol to help people forget their poverty and remember their troubles no more. The way I really view that is that, thousands of years ago, that was all the medication that they had. So nowadays that might look a little bit different. And what the psalmist is, or the Proverbs writer is not advocating for here is just, get drunk and forget about them. The contrast that the mother is drawing here is between a leader who shouldn't be consuming alcohol because they're making important decisions. And if they do consume alcohol or allow their judgment to be clouded, that might help them to not care about the oppressed. And in another sense, it is a medication. It's the only medication that they knew at that time. So nowadays we might think of more refined methods that we have to medicate mental illness and other things that are actually good things that we can recommend to people. Verse 8 and 9 talk about speaking up for people who cannot speak for themselves, being a voice for the voiceless. And I want to ask you, students, is that a mandate that we as a church take seriously? A question that I have for, adult believers, but us as well, because we do look up to the adult believers in our life. Do we allow political affiliations in our life allow us to become numb and to outweigh the calls to be a voice to the voiceless? It's a challenging statement, that to understand that our advocacy for people who cannot advocate for themselves is something that we are called to do biblically, and that takes place over any political affiliation that we think we hold. Our mandate to be a voice for justice and a voice against oppression is more important than anything else that we think we need to do based on political affiliation. So that's a call that I want all of us to kind of carry with us, and a conviction that we need to have to speak up for the poor and helpless and see that they get justice. And that's verse 31:9. Moving down to the next section, it's really different. There's like a sharp dividing line between verses 9 and 10. And what happens in verse 10 is it's a start of an acrostic poem. So it's every single letter of the Hebrew alphabet which starts a new proverb. So just if you may be wondering, why did this abruptly change so quickly, that's why. And the other interesting thing to note is that it's spoken by a woman. So again, this whole proverb is seen as one proverb between Lemuel and his mother, what she gave to him. So this is spoken by a woman. And we need to remember that in context, because if you just look at this and think, man, is this a man saying everything that he needs or wants from a woman? That's crazy. But this is a mother encouraging her son to look for these things in a woman that he would marry someday. So just keep that in mind as we study this next part. Verse 15 talks about she gets up before the dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. That's an organization, an eye for details, and also a care for others, the fact that she made everybody else food. And verse 16 talks about her intelligence. And then verses 17 to 20 talks about a woman who you might be looking for is going to have strength and compassion. And verses 21 through 23 would look a little bit different today. So it says, she has no fear of winter for her household. She makes her own bedspreads. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. Now, today, obviously, that will look different, because the last time I checked, we don't have any city gates in Hutchinson. But basically, what that is talking about is that both she and her husband are regarded well in the community. And because of her, in fact, the husband's reputation is helped because of how she assists and supports him. Verse 25 is a key verse. And in fact, the whole Proverbs 31, you may have heard people talk about, I want to be the Proverbs 31 woman, or I'm looking for my Proverbs 31 woman. It's kind of an interesting saying in Christian circles, but verse 25 kind of sums it all up for us. It says this: she is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Essentially, what that talks about, a little bit of that, is valuing her character, who she is as a person, over her style, her drip, her trendiness, how cool she is to all the people around her. Her character is more valuable than anything. And that's the woman, that's the person that you need to be looking for later in life. Going down to verse 30 says, and it's another way to sum all this up, it says, charm is deceptive and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Students, good looks and infatuation, that feeling that you feel for someone, you just, oh man, I'm so obsessed with them, that is temporary. That goes away. It might last for a day, it might even last for a few months, but it is temporary, and that will go away. And when that goes away, when, not if, when that goes away, you need to wonder, what is the character of the person that I have invested my time and my relationship and my energy into? And again, a reminder, when you search for a wife, gentlemen, or when you search for a man, women, look for these things. And for the guys, if you're looking for a woman who is this amazing, who has all these amazing character qualities, who is so wonderful, again, I pose the question to you, are you being the kind of person that this woman is going to look for? A wise woman who's organized and cares for other people and is intelligent and beautiful, but deep down has the best character. Is she going to look at you and think, wow, that is an honorable man that I think I would love to be with? Or is she going to look at you as someone who is immature and is a fool and who doesn't care about things and doesn't take care of the things in their life? That's a question that I think all of us need to answer, and we need to take that to heart. So for women, are we being the woman that a man is going to be looking for later in life? Are we setting up good habits? Are we building up our character? Are we valuing wisdom? And for men, are you being a person that a wise woman is going to look for later in their life? It's a good question. You have to start that now. Even though you're not getting married tomorrow, the habits that you set today are going to shape a trajectory for the rest of your life. At the end of verse 30, a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. A woman or man with a sincere and genuine faith is absolutely priceless. One of my pet peeves is when pastors always talk about how wonderful their wives are. Oh, my wife is the best, but I'm going to do it. My wife is the best. I found Kat, my wife, not by chasing after other people or chasing after a relationship or chasing after looking good or being popular myself. The way that I found my wife was chasing full-heartedly after God. And when I found out that she was doing the same when we met each other, it just made sense because this was the kind of woman that she was. And I had that in my heart that that's what I was going to look for. That I wasn't going to look for earthly things, things that are temporary and go away instantly. But I was going to look for someone who exemplified these qualities. And I found her by chasing after God. Students, that concludes the whole Proverbs Project. I want to encourage each one of you guys, if you're looking for a way or, you've been slacking off on your personal devotion, you can go back and you can watch these videos one day at a time to just get in that habit of daily pursuing Scripture. And there's a lot of wisdom here. If you read through the Proverbs again, I guarantee you're going to find new things because the Holy Spirit is living and active. Thank you for joining us on this Proverbs Project journey. I'm really excited that I got to do it with you, and I'm really excited to see what we have left for the rest of summer. Thank you, students.